support safe and legal abortions. It is criminal that lawmakers who don't have medical, psychological, or ethical education about women's health are making these decisions for Iowans. Did you know that 1/3 of women in Iowa do not have access to birthing hospitals or obstetric doctors? And this is because their doctors are so afraid of doing their job in Iowa. Restrictions over abortions over the years have resulted in high infant mortality rates, women being unable to get adequate care, and women feeling that they must be ashamed of themselves for making a choice. That is a difficult choice to make. Nobody wants to do this. And the low number of OBs left in the state are pushed beyond safe caregiving ability because of the fear of practicing in Iowa. I truly hope that you think about this bill as a human being and not as a political party member who has to toe the party line. Thank you for your consideration.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name's Layla Staten. I live in Grundy County. 360 days ago, I came in and spoke on a subcommittee hearing that was on a bill that was just like this one. As a child, starting at 8, ending at 15, because my father is thankfully in prison, I was sexually assaulted throughout my childhood. I'm grateful that I had the option to talk to doctors that were honest and caring and compassionate, thinking about my future, to discuss the options I had as a kid. This bill will hurt kids like me. I had the options. I have my future because I had the options. I was able to have honest conversations with my doctor, with a therapist. This bill does not allow that. This bill takes those options away from kids that were just like me, and they won't have the futures that I have because they will not have the options that I had. So I encourage you to vote no.
Let me be clear. This bill will harm. Don't tell me what to do. Anyway, let me start over. Let me be clear. This bill will harm women in Iowa. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Francesca Turner. I'm legislative chair for the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, Iowa section, and we oppose this bill. This bill uses vague and medically inaccurate language. As we have seen in prior legislation, this creates confusion for patients, physicians, and hospital attorneys. But what care is legal in Iowa? I have received calls from patients and physicians across Iowa describing uncertainty about what care can be safely provided, even when that care is permitted under Iowa law. In some cases, hospital attorneys have intervened to stop physicians from providing medically appropriate legal care in our state. I also want to address the false claim of abortion reversal. Medication abortion reversal is not supported by medical evidence and raises significant safety concerns. The only randomized controlled trial studying this practice was stopped early because of patient harm. There is no reliable evidence demonstrating safety or effectiveness. That is not evidence-based and conflicts with accepted medical standards. ACOG cannot support this practice. Section 5 raises concerns as well. Methotrexate, a standard and evidence-based treatment for ectopic pregnancy, could be misinterpreted under this bill as an abortion-inducing drug. We have already seen how medically inaccurate statutory language leads to delay in care. Women with ectopic pregnancies may be denied methotrexate while still stable, forcing them to undergo major abdominal surgery or wait until the pregnancy ruptures and causes life-threatening harm. Physicians must medical judgment and expertise to provide timely, appropriate care. The risk reporting requirements and the names of facilities of physicians involved in pregnancy care exposes medical professionals to harassment even when they are providing legal care. It undermines the patient-physician relationship by asking patients in vulnerable situations to identify their treating doctors for state reporting. In summary, this bill will delay appropriate care and risk serious harm to Iowans. It will further strain Iowa's maternity care system, where 2/3 of our counties are maternity health care deserts. With recent closures of birth centers, we cannot afford additional barriers that drive physicians away or increase costs to already fragile rural healthcare systems. This legislation will worsen care for rural Iowans. We can do better than this. I urge you to oppose this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. My name is Dane Schuman. I'm the lobbyist for ACOG. As you heard, they're registered opposed to the bill. I want to put a couple of finer points on some of the objections that have already been raised. I think the ultimate irony behind this legislation is that, as I've heard from you, Senator Schultz, and some of the other proponents of it in the room, it's aimed at addressing black market abortion pills by mail. The irony of that is that I think if this bill were to pass, that would be the only source for people to obtain those drugs, rather than through the legitimate physicians that are practicing in the state. I say that because, in part, because of the bill's requirements on informed consent directly conflict with doctors' longstanding duty under informed consent to provide medically accurate, reasonable information to their patients, and this bill is counseling just the opposite. So doctors will be forced to choose between either following this piece of legislation, if it were to become law, and violating their informed consent duties that they've long had and subjecting themselves to litigation for doing that, or following their informed consent duty, ignoring this bill's prohibitions or prescriptions, and then having a lawsuit filed against them for that. And I think the irony, or what would ultimately happen as a result of that, is that doctors and hospitals would simply decide it's not worth doing this anymore. We have to stop offering these pills as a prescription for women who need them. And what would ultimately be left is the very sources of black market abortion pill drugs that don't operate legally that you're trying to stop with this bill. So that's why we oppose it, amongst other reasons that we look forward to working with you to perhaps address those concerns as we go forward.
Seth Brown on behalf of the Iowa Medical Society. We're registered against the bill. IMS represents about 6,000 physicians, medical residents, and medical students across the state. We appreciate the opportunity to speak on this bill and the conversations we've had so far. I think we share the goal to try to address black market medications coming into the state, and we're happy to work on that. Policy stance aside, I do want to talk to a few of the concerns that we have about the language used and how it might be difficult for physicians to comply with the letter of the law. Our primary concern is the section imposing strict liability for violations of Chapter 146. It has many technical requirements within that section. There are also many clinical judgments that have to be made under that section. When you're speaking about strict liability, it means that the intent and the mental state does not matter. It's simply whether the act is violated. And so we feel like that conflict with the definition of inducing drug reference sections that speak to the use of the drug when it's not intended to induce an abortion. And so we do appreciate that there are acknowledgments that, these are used for other reasons, but it doesn't matter so long as that is dispensed and used. And so either way, you're strictly liable for violating that code section. It's already been spoken to a little bit here, but medication abortion reversal. This section requires physicians to make certain statements to patients about the ability to reverse medication abortions using progesterone. As mentioned, there have been mixed results and there aren't clear clinical studies backing the use of this treatment. The data from these studies are used to support clinical decisions made by physicians when you're defending medical malpractice cases. And so our concerns is that this bill will mandate that these statements on abortion reversal will be mandated to be made, or you're strictly liable under the letter of the law. Conversely, at the same time, mandating medically unproven advice, as my colleague here spoke to, will result in liability exposure in malpractice cases. So it's a bit of a lose-lose from the physician's standpoint. We're happy to talk through, how are we able to address this black market medication that is coming in, whether it's for medication abortions or beyond that. We do feel like this will target physicians in an already unstable practice environment. So we do want to be mindful as we're looking at, is Iowa a welcoming place for OBGYNs? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dr. Teresa Fuller. I practice rural family medicine here in Iowa. I am against this bill because I see firsthand every day access to physicians that can provide this counseling and provide this medication is. Your constituents have the least access to maternal health care of anywhere in the US, and you're going to make it even harder for people to get the medications that they need. I also think that it damages the relationship between a patient and a physician to force me to lie when I'm providing a medication to a patient. And in providing that informed consent, I took an oath to first do no harm. And I think lying to my patients does immense harm. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Laura Hesberg with the Iowa Coalition Against Domestic Violence. We urge you to oppose this bill as well. We acknowledge a shared concern for maternal health. We think this bill misses the mark in numerous ways. People talked about the unnecessary barriers it creates, the unnecessary and misleading requirements it puts on physicians. A general point is that abortion is an essential component of comprehensive medical care for all Iowans can depend on timely access to abortion because unintended pregnancy increases their risk of violence and limits their options for safety more broadly. In this regard, the provision right at the beginning requiring physicians to perform an additional in-person screening for coercion or abuse is particularly harmful and unnecessary. We obviously support physician screening protocols, and thank you all physicians who are here for doing that. But we also appreciate that abortion providers are already doing that. And in fact, abortion providers are uniquely skilled at honoring the autonomy of patients and helping them make informed decisions. So this not only adds another barrier to access, but it perpetuates a false and insulting assumption that women are routinely coerced into having abortions. Most often, DV victims are coerced into pregnancy, and this puts them at great maternal risk, puts their children in a relationship at additional risk of harm because violence increases in abusive relationships when someone is pregnant increases in the home, and like perinatal death in abusive relationships is 3 times that for other women. And rape victims certainly do not need an additional screening to confirm their decision. Unintended pregnancy obviously is the primary reason women seek abortion, making it harder to access birth control. Abortion in our state makes rape and abuse victims, maintain contact with a partner they don't want to be in contact with. And it also forces many people to return to violent relationships they would rather leave and puts them and their children at greater risk for harm. We encourage you to oppose this bill. Oh, can you pass it? Oh, this way? Sorry.
Hi, my name is Heaven Chamberlain. I'm with the lobbyist group Bitches Get Stuff Done, and we are registered opposed to this bill. I would like to speak on a personal note. Last year, one of my greatest friends in the entire world got an abortion. We went to Planned Parenthood, and I was not allowed in the room with her at first because of the word corrosion. They wanted to make sure she was using an informed choice and that she would be safe. And then I was allowed in the room and allowed to hold her hand as she made an excruciatingly decision. She wanted that baby, but she was not in the position to take care of it. And that is okay. Women get abortions for multitudes of reasons, and it is not this legislative body's business to involve themselves in any of this. I would like to concur with my doctor over there, Francesca Turner. Hope you recognize me. She was my OBGYN, and she was not allowed to take out my uterus. Well, she stopped taking out uteruses, but I had my uterus taken out by Dr. Paris at Brabant's because this body is turning us into chattel. My body is my choice, and I'm allowed to decide if I have a child or not this governing body. Thank you.
Hi there. I'm Patty Alexander. And, oh, sure. I'm Patty Alexander. And I have many friends that have had an abortion. And they truly, wholeheartedly regret it. And I want everyone to know there is a third option, and that's called adoption. In 2023, abortion pills accounted for approximately 63% of all abortions in the United States. Women need to know that the abortion pill reversals are available and are successful at 64 to 68% accuracy and success. And they need to know that timing is essential to this success. This is a pro woman bill. Women deserve to be fully informed. One friend told me that her abortion was the most lonely, cold, and deep darkness that she had ever gone through. Another friend told me that her abortion was actually coerced by her mother, her own mother. This bill requires doctors to fully inform the pregnant mother of all the risks that follow, and it requires doctors to assess mental health risks involved with abortion. And it even adds a provision that helps women who are being trafficked or coerced. This bill also requires doctors to disclose the gestational age to the mother of the baby. A prayer rally here in the rotunda, the Planned Parenthood actually lied to the mother with a false ultrasound image. I would like you to add that the mother hear the heartbeat and see the ultrasound, the actual ultrasound. Abortion clinics spend about 15 minutes with their patients, and on their website, Planned Parenthood says that it could cost up to $800. It also states that depending on the laws in your state, which reduce the cost to around $600, the crime is that the actual chemical that causes the baby to starve is a very cheap chemical. Vulnerable women are being taken advantage of financially. This bill requires a follow-up with the patient that is necessary because women are having adverse effects. And when they have complications, they are afraid to disclose that they took the abortion pill. The American College of Pediatricians strongly encourages healthcare professionals, policymakers, and women of all ages and their families to understand the serious risks associated with chemical abortions, especially when it's self-managed. Additionally, pregnant women with regrets after starting chemical be informed about the potential for abortion pill. Please advance this bill after women are fully empowered with knowledge. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kayla Anderson, Pose SS 15. Bill is described reality, it is the opposite. It places unnecessary barriers between women and their medical care. This would eliminate telehealth access for abortion care. Healthcare is already a problem not being affordable in the United States. And for many Iowans, especially those that live in rural areas, low income, victims of abuse, can't easily take off time of work because they have 3 jobs because, again, they can't afford anything. This doesn't improve their safety. It simply makes it harder and impossible to access. This bill creates fear and legal risk for the providers, which you've heard from the providers, which will even further reduce the access to care, not because it's unsafe, but because it's politically targeted. Iowans deserve better. Healthcare decisions should be made by individuals and their medical providers, not a lawmaker substituting their ideology for their medical evidence. I strongly urge you to vote no on SB 3115 and protect Iowans.
I will say, I'm Jacqueline Meunier. I live in West Des Moines, Iowa. I wasn't planning to speak today, but I want to say thank you to all the professionals who shared information that I have read or was aware of, so eloquently put the facts out there. I feel like some people need to check their facts possibly. Thank you so much for having this subcommittee so people can come and explain and express their feelings. I personally feel that this bill should not pass for the basis that women have a right to their own decisions over their own body. And that's the bottom line. Thank you.
Did that take care of in the room?
Thank you. Thank you.
More?
Yep. Thank you. Yep.
Thank you. My name's Mike DeFelice. I'm retired, live in Johnston, Iowa, and I attend St. Andrew's Episcopal Church. I'm going to say this from a slightly different angle. When I was younger, I was the extension weeds science specialist for the state of Missouri. I was the extension weed science specialist for the state of Missouri. My job was to educate farmers and to assist them with controlling weeds on their farms. Whether you like it or not, most of that was with herbicides. When farmers called me, usually it was they had a problem, and usually it was their crop was injured because something had gone wrong. I would ask them what they did. We'd go through the dose. When did you apply it? What did you use? Often I would find out that what they had done was not on the label. So, number one, they couldn't go back to the chemical company and get any money because they violated the label. And number two, we already knew that that was going to cause a problem. So from there, we'd work out what to do next. When I first started there, I was fresh out of school, so I was a green extension agent. I asked the head of the Department of Agriculture in the pesticide division, do I need to report these violations to you? And he was a farmer, and he said, absolutely not. Farmers will not call you. They will not trust you. You will not be able to help them if we require you to turn them in. That's my comment.
I did not expect that from an extension.
Thank you.
Agriculture.
I'm Annie Goslin. I live in Iowa City, Johnson County, and I'm also a member of the DI for Johnson County Democrats, as well as 1st Congressional District. We can't legislate humanity. We can't make a zebra take off its stripes because that's the way the zebra was born. And if we're going to be so bold as to legislate what women can and cannot do with their bodies, why are we not holding these young men responsible as well? I mean, as much energy as we have spent as a society for buying all of this literature, all of this airtime on televisions to legislate and to limit abortion access or to just abolish it altogether, that money could also be spent working with these young men after school and attacking what's really the problem, and it's the way they think. And the same could be said for these young women as well. But we all make mistakes. But the bottom line is, men are the perpetrators of a great deal of sex-based crime in the United States. I'm not saying women don't. I'm saying majority of them are being committed by men. DEI, I don't hate anybody. I work every day to respect the rights of all people. I have a background in healthcare, and we go in there with the attitude of respecting people as they are, how they come to us. We're not there to negotiate what they believe is right or wrong. And I just honestly, I also have a background in working with children in the inner city, in Iowa City. And these are families that have been forgotten by they are students that are bright, capable from different countries in the world, but they're too poor to have someone stay with the children like a nanny. And so we've been providing meals for them. These are children that maybe, according to their culture, they were forced to have by the men in their culture. And I gotta tell you tell a child you're a Democrat or you're a Republican or you're an independent, they don't care. They don't remember that. But you give a child food and they'll remember you the rest of their life. But I see a big squabble happening about that too, regarding children lunch programs, etc., the SNAP. Why are we quibbling over what children get to eat? First, we legislate that we want to have these children regardless of what the man or the woman have done. Then we snatch away their lunches. I don't understand that. Thank you.
You turn that off. And then, okay, good deal. I think we are to the online. And if I caught it correctly, I'm just trying to kind of go in order. Is it Christy Judkins, Iowa Right to Life? Could you unmute and go ahead?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I, as an executive director of Our Right to Life, am in support of this bill, as well as being a woman who has been traumatized by abortion. The number one thing that I believe we all have in common is that we respect the intelligence of the women, all of the women in the room, and all of the women that are speaking online. And I believe that having information to make a wise decision about the trajectory of your life is very important. So, as a woman traumatized, not having the information that I needed when years ago I had a suction abortion, I believe in the fact that we need to educate women on the potential trauma and the harm that can be done by the abortion pill. And if I look at the situation with regard to the truth, if if we have truth, then I believe women have the common sense, capacity, and approach to be able to make a decision. I've been on both sides. I've been pro-choice and I've been pro-life, and I stand as a pro-life Iowan and executive director of Our Right to Life because I have been involved with women who have had abortions in the past, and I've seen the trauma. I've heard the stories. And for that reason, I stand true and I stand strong on my position, not only as executive director, but again, as a pro life Iowan. And the third aspect of the legislation would require information, data, metrics, so we know the truth about what's happening. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak. And again, Our Right to Life stands in support of this legislation, as do I as a pro-life Iowan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think next is Sue. Is it Liebel?
Hi.
Good deal. We can hear you.
Hi there. Okay. Yes, it's Sue Liebel. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm with Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life America. And across America, since the Dobbs decision, abortions have increased actually to over 1 million a year. Even in states like Iowa that have limited abortion through the heartbeat bill, the FDA's reckless loosening of the rate, little or no medical oversight or follow-up, they've also sent more women to the hospital. And peer-reviewed scientific research shows that complications are significantly higher for these drugs than for surgical abortion or even childbirth. Approximately 3 to 7% of the time, these drugs will result in an incomplete abortion that will require additional drugs or surgery. And this rate increases the later in pregnancy that the drugs are used. The FDA's own label has a black box warning on these drugs, and that label indicates that around 1 in 25 women will end up in the emergency room. The FDA got that through science. This has also created a new kind of crime called coercion, which is an abusive partner, a sex trafficker, or someone forcing the drugs into a woman's body against her will. These cases are popping up now. They just keep popping up, and sadly, they will continue to pop up until out-of-state abortionists are held accountable. States can and should strengthen enforcement measures to protect women's health and safety, and this bill will go a long way to doing that by requiring an in-person visit before dispensing. It will rule out pre-existing conditions. It'll screen for coercion. If she is seeing a doctor before getting the pills, it will also be a woman. No more, men buying the pills online for coercion. It'll also help women know who and where to call should they have dangerous complications. The private cause of action in the bill will help Iowa women and their families have recourse if they suffer injury with any provider, but notably, they can reach across Iowa borders to the out-of-state bad actors who mail in the pills with no accountability, something that all states are grappling with right now in session this year. We know more today about the uptick in emergency room visits than we did when the pills were originally approved. Studies have shown a 500% increase in emergency room visits since the pills hit the market. This is a public health crisis. Iowa will join many states now that have requirements that emergency room doctors report to the health department when they've treated a complication. This may be one of the only